Welcome to the Speculation Island show, and today is our first episode. And joining me will be Algorithm, and we will be essentially just running through a bunch of topics that have come up this past week and speculating upon them. So, if
Hey,
Algo's
friend,
ready to
I'm here.
go,
Sorry I'm late.
hey. He's
How
gonna
are you?
have a seat. I'm doing good. I'm doing good. And we're going to be talking a little bit today, or I'll be interviewing Algo, asking him a bunch of questions and responding to if he has any questions. So, kind of my idea here is to bring up topics that have come up on different streamers' channels and news broadcasters that are relevant to here and now and the time that we're in, and speculate upon the spiritual aspects of what is happening in our time as we're going through what they would like to call the Great Reset, and what I would also like to call the Great Reset, because this time was set and we had lots of warning about its coming for those who could see it. So that's kind of what I hope to do here in future episodes, and to start us off today a little bit on the spiritual journey and the spiritual path of our walk now back into history and time and relevant links between here and then. So, my topic today will be a little bit on language and the language between animals and humans, humans and plants, and in general, how we speak and how we communicate with each other, essentially. So, Algo, to begin with, can you let us know what languages you do speak, and in your regular tongue? I'm not talking like in animal languages right now, but just in general, what kind of training do you have in languages?
I was primarily trained in English, of course, because I grew up in a country that speaks it. And I took French for 4 years. I can still understand it if they slow down, but I have given back that tongue. I do speak energy language to a degree. And as far as where you kind of headed with the animal/plant kingdom, I don't talk to plants, but I can kind of listen to them to a degree. And as long as they're not a domestic animal, that's not entirely true, but I do have a fairly powerful relationship.
Okay, well, that's a good place to start then. Can you
So,
recall
give you an
for me?
example.
Yeah, can
Sorry,
you
go ahead.
recall? Go ahead. It's fine. Can you recall for me, or what memory surfaces first when thinking about communication with a tree or a plant of some type? What plant would that be? And do you remember what that was like?
Yeah, and I wouldn't say that I can speak to like every plant because have never tried. I never had a purpose to try, but I did have a teacher who we went to the desert, and she wanted to see if I could pick out the proper cactus that would not put me into convulsions when I participated in a peyote ceremony. If you pick the wrong one, you're in trouble.
Do you remember what the name of the cactus is that you picked?
I don't know that I ever knew. I didn't ever ask.
Can you
But
describe it?
we sat on a plateau in near Grand Junction, Colorado. And it wasn't a big, giant, tall plateau, but just a little sand outcropping. And we sat there and we're still in quiet for probably close to 3 hours. And what I was told to do, and she said, I know you can do it. You don't know you can do it. You don't even know what this is, but I know you can do this. Um, what I want you to do is I want you to try to focus on a female cactus. And I said, okay, I will try my best. She's like, no, it's fine. Get it out of your head. Don't even worry about it. What I want you to do is just pay attention. If you get the right one, it's going to be a great day. And if you get the wrong one, you may be deathly ill by 9 o'clock tonight. And I'm like, okay, so no pressure.
Oh, yeah, no pressure there.
And so she said, just clear your mind, however long it takes. I've got nowhere to go today. Our time is today. And just go find it in your being inside. And I'm like, okay. So, and at that time, I was 38 years old. And I'd been on my own personal spiritual journey, but I had really never had a human teacher. And I'd never really even communicated it with human teacher. So it was an entirely new experience. Half of the fun was just speaking, and she told me never use her name in public, so I can't do that. But I'm not sure what that's about. Maybe you could explain that later, or even now.
Yeah.
What's that?
Yeah,
what is that all about?
I can tell you. I can tell you really quickly. As a Mexican shaman or Native American shaman who guides in peyote or ayahuasca ceremonies correctly, will ask that you not reveal their name, proper one, because they are not in it for the money or the business. They feel led to you to guide you on this journey. So if they are on the journey that they're led to guide you on for that moment in time. So, and especially if it is a spirit being, which it sounds like could be on this one, then they will even more so ask that you not reveal their name in public, for the very sense they're not wanting the attraction. They're there for you, essentially.
Yeah. Same reason that you and I don't like to have our picture taken.
Yeah, because it is very much, it attracts negative energy and positive energy. So if we're in a state of not wanting that negative energy around us, or we're spirit guiding, like what's happening with this situation that you're describing, you definitely don't want to give that name later in time, because it can send very foul entities their way.
Got it. Okay, that makes sense to me now. That part makes real good sense. So I'm sitting there, and it took a little time, and if people who meditate and meditate powerfully know that you don't really clear your mind, you just kind of let the stuff that you don't want in there go away. Then the stuff that needs to be there will stay. That's how it works for me anyway.
Yes, that's accurate.
So I got to that place, and then I was looking at the field, and the rocks kept getting in my way a little bit. And I know you know what that means, but it wasn't like I imagined it was going to be like take me 4 or 5 or 6 hours or something, and that I had to let go of those thoughts, and I had to just stay in that place. And when I did, literally it took about 20 minutes, and I got up and I walked over and I said, "This one." She said, "Are you sure?" I said, "I'm as sure as I can be." And I kind of remember what it looked like. It kind of, if I had to describe it, it almost looked like either a spider or octopus legs. And it was purple and had purple and green flower, just one. And there were like 5 or 6 of these things, and they curved down and went up. It's something I don't think I'd ever seen before. And as soon as she started to dig it, she dug the half of it, and then she said, "You have to dig to the root. I'm showing you how, so pay close attention." And as I was starting to dig, I'm like, what if I just picked it because I liked it? I kind of got some anxiety and had to work through that. And so then we dug up the root. I cut it up, I cut my finger and I gave them my blood, and we soaked it and soaked it and soaked it. And then I went on an interesting adventure. And it was all positive.
Wow, that left it suspended.
Because it was a personal adventure. But I was also recommended never to share with another person.
Yes. Which is why I laugh about this, actually, because the details that you have given, that you have shared, provide authenticity and accuracy to this experience. For people like me and others who guide in spiritual journeys, when one takes a hallucinogenic, or in order to aid to enter into the in-between place, to be guided into in Native American, they call it a spirit journey or a warrior's journey, in order to discern what is the path and meaning of your own life. Now, these details are very, very intrinsic to you, and if revealed, also, again, as I said before, open you up to attack in those that you're caring for.
You know, and she never got into any of that stuff. I didn't even know if I was doing any of this right. I was just following instructions. Because we met in unusual circumstances. Lisa, come in. I'm going to put you on hold for one quick second.
Yes, go ahead. I'll jump in definitely right there, because what I want to say is a couple things. What we have going on here is a entrance of someone coming in the door, which is always significant to spiritual things coming in the door as well, to help in the description and guiding of this one. So it also provides even more authenticity and accuracy to what algorithm is describing here, because of the requirement of spirit to be present. So when we open a door, or someone comes to knock on the door, and some people's, depending on the levels of their spiritual aspects and what they are destined to do in this life, and in others are continuously, we find
that's freaking me out. Your phone rang at the same time.
Well, yeah, it does this to me too, and it's of the same thing. Only this one wants in, and I'm not letting it in because it doesn't have permission from me to
Gotcha.
come in.
Okay, sorry about that.
That's okay. No, I'm glad you brought it up, because if not, it may have snuck its way in anyways. Because they could do that, you know. But what we're investigating here, and putting to my own, I've put out on paper, and I'm working on a video right now to kind of more visualize this for people, but is a true, I'm going to say true scientific, because there's a difference now between true and false, but using old time or historical science theory to prove whether or not one thing can be done or not, concerning specifically water and radio waves and speaking with spirit. So since the location I'm in has so much supernatural activity, and that is recognizable to this, taking that seat as being able to open doors so other spirit guides can come in to help, I guess is what I'm trying to say. Is probably, I can feel already there's a lot of people that misunderstood that statement, but a better way might be to say is to consider the decipherment of what has over the past 400 years been taken by pagan or satanic use and put to use in what's called the box theory, or the spirit box theory, of radio waves and transmissions. So this all definitely aligns with your beginning story, Algo, because it is a spirit journey for each one of us to take my hot seat, what I call my hot seat, the soft and hard place that you're sitting in right now, Algo. And many others throughout my lifetime here have also taken that spot. It's not necessarily always a comfortable place to be in, but most of the time it's good. We find, at least in the end, progress. So go ahead.
So I've never like double checked, or I never asked anybody else. I don't call it a peyote ceremony because I was told not to. I was finding my power plant is what I was told I was doing. So from your estimation, that was normal, that kind of a thing?
Yes, and almost a requirement, since she came and asked me first if she could come into your place and sit beside you. I felt her approach me first, so I expected the knock on the door so that you would let her in. Yeah, and sure enough, yes, it came right on time. So just like when we were talking about Luna, right before she came in the door, she hears her name and she's there. So through my theory is that with certain frequency level vibrations, part of my theory, not all of it, but a part of this, that I'm attempting to prove, not only with Speculation Island, but by putting my website up and receiving calls and this kinds of things. Now, it is a training thing, I guess, in a way, to help people recognize what are the signs of spirit as they are becoming more prevalent and more able to speak with us. The time lapse in between the veil, which was called the veil, the place in between, how long it takes to get from here to there, has been slowly decreasing throughout time, throughout the 6,000 years that we have recorded history time of. And as we've gotten closer, we received the warning in 2012 that this would be nearing its end and we would have this much more time before now, when we come to the conjunction, what everybody is seeing and experiencing. The whole earth knows this is going on, and it's visible from no matter where you're standing, no matter how hard they try to cover that it is happening. What this means, what this means is that the benevolent entities, so-called guardian angels and the good familiar spirits, which are those who guard over your family line, who have lived a worthy and honorable life, grandfathers, great-grandfathers, this kind of thing, and as well as the mothers to guide and care over family lines. They have been sleeping, as was written, up to this point. So before a couple of years ago, when it started to thin, they did not have access, and we could not let anything in the doors, so to say. But now that the time of the veil is past of it being torn, it's necessary to essentially train peoples and souls how to truly recognize, without the blinders and the darkness that was there before, what is benevolent and what is not. What is the authenticity, accuracy of a true peyote or ayahuasca journey, and the difference between one that is poisonous and can kill a man or woman. So
she really wasn't joking when she said that.
Not at all.
It made me deathly ill.
Deathly ill in the sense of your spirit deathly ill, that it would poison not only your human body, but your soul as well. So if you had picked the wrong one, especially with, the heritage and line that you have, it would have would have done away with you probably pretty quick. At least
Glad I chose correctly.
Extremely evil soul. Not a happy person, that's for sure, and definitely not sweet. But Creator is beside us, and that's why someone like her is sent to guide you. She can't pick for you. She could not have picked for you what plan was the right one. Only your soul could look to see. And that immediately you were tempted and tested with the anxiety of, oh, maybe I just picked this one because I like it, because it's essentially the one that stands out the most to me. But is that not how we always pick in most situation and choices that we're presented with? We usually tend to go with the one that is, oh, well, that's the one that I like the most, per se. So not surprising that your soul would recognize that. But what I think she did the most in that moment was break and shift your spiritual barrier so that you would push through the opening of mind to find the flower. Now, finding of the flower is the beginning of any male warrior spirit journey. If the right flower is not picked, then essentially what she told you, you'd be poisoned. So the same applies in real life or in mortal life, face to face, when a warrior goes out to experience his spirit journey for the first time. It usually is only one time for Native American, of course, but now in our lifetimes, we actually have men that can experience more than one spirit journey, but that's a different topic.
Got it. Well, and I'll tell you, when I remember I was digging with my hands in a rough soil, and I remember thinking to myself, she's not going to let this kill me. There's no way. She's not going to let this make me sick. But then at the same time, I'm sitting there, I'm like, well, she said it could, and you believed everything we've experienced together so far for the past 6 months. So, and then I had to shake it off and say, you know what? Just keep digging. Just go with the process. And I will tell you, what the greatest part of it wasn't necessarily the journey I took that day, but maybe 4 or 5 days later, my intuition really became trustworthy to me, where I don't question it ever. I haven't questioned it since then, but it took a few days of something for me to kind of dial back down, or I don't even know what it is. But about 3 or 4 days later, I woke up and I felt differently inside, but I didn't feel like strange or even better. It was just different. And then from there forward, my intuition is really good. And I just 2 quick examples, and it's not an ego example. It's just an illustration. In March of this year, I went to my boss and I said, do you think you can buy insurance for this event because it's going to be canceled? And he said, it's not going to be canceled. This COVID will be gone in, a couple more weeks and we'll be fine. And then in September, he came to me and he said, I wished I would have listened to you then. And in July, I was talking to my sister and I said, sis, Christmas is going to probably be canceled this year. So let's kind of figure out how we're going to get gifts to the extended family, because nobody's coming over this year. And she's like, no, Michael, it's by September, we'll be done with this stuff. And so for me, what it is confirmation that everything I did up until that day, I absolutely had to do. And then what happened from that day forward was a serious shift for me.
Yeah. Yeah, because I definitely am seeing and feeling the, like what I was saying before, the pushing through the boundaries to enter into spiritual communication. So kind of what I was trying, or what I feel like my goal has been with speaking to you along the way, not just right now, but in the past, is helping to release and unlock the telepathic, more the communication telepathically, not only with the receiving of so-called words, but it's more like feelings from the animals, but also you being able to communicate and pushing that out as well. So this is important because of the amount of people that I can see, or the amount of souls around you that learn from you. These are also bright souls who have been learning for some time, so they've received some training in the spirit and are coming to a point where they're ready to graduate, so-called, or advance to the next level, which is that communication in feelings, that reception, both giving and reception of so-called different emotions that we carry within us. With practice, you can better start to finer tune, I guess is what I'm trying to say, what it is you want to transmit and who you want it to go to. Now, which is why name in spirit is so important, because with name, we either find or identify and can decipher who or what we are speaking to with name. So why it's always important to reveal your name and knock before you enter into another person's realm or boundary or space, but also to make sure that they have also open the door, giving you permission to enter in, reveal your name. But if there are other entities in the room, which many times, especially in today's world, almost every time, there are other entities in the room. And one of our greatest warrior skills that we can have is to begin to put those tools and skills to use in eliminating the negative energies so that the positive can come in. Why we weren't able to do that in the past would be essentially what the scriptures say about how if there is faithless or a lacking of faith in a person, when the Messiah would come to sweep the house or clean it of demons, then if that person was afflicted by fear or one of the other evil parts of our soul, ego, pride, greed, jealousy, all of these, the house could be filled with up to 7 demons, twice as bad as they were before. So it's very dangerous to just go around to everybody's house and begin to clean. You needed to understand what person you
demons, were. Everybody out. Let's go. We're done with this.
Yeah, which is part of the reason why I have a hard time with exorcists or Catholic religion dogmas of, we're coming in to clean your house, or even Christian now, which has taken up that same bad bandwagon of, we can kick out and poltergeist and these kinds of things. But if you haven't been assigned by birth to do this thing, then not only are you opening up yourself to, without the proper training, without knowing how to do this, then you're opening up yourself to the possession of that thing and affliction of that thing. But also you're opening portals so that person's house that you're attempting to clean becomes twice as bad as it was before you showed up.
Don't egg on the demons. Can we talk about the animals? Because I have always had that with
proper
animals.
training from from one who knows. To answer Connie's question, both spiritual entities of the angels or malachim, those who keep in guard over us. A lot of training comes from them, but as you're saying, Algo, a lot of training comes from listening to the animals and spending time in nature and creation and developing that speech first. But
I was 6 and my mom brought home a kitten. It was a little calico. Oh, hold on. Dang it, yeah. Surprised that choked me up. And she was my cat. And she was my cat from the moment she entered the house. We moved and we went to another house and I had to go to the bus stop to go to school. And she tried to follow me to the bus stop. And I would have to grab her at the bus stop, run back home, put her in the house, close the cat door so she couldn't get hurt or get on the bus or whatever. So that the thing with cats.
How cute.
Oh yeah, I was like 9 years old and I'm running with my cat and I gotta go make the bus, but I still gotta get the cat back home. It was only on the other block. I climbed the fences. So I'd climb the fence with this cat in tow. I'd put her in the back door and I'd run over and I'd close the cat door because we got a cat door cut in the brick. And she could come and go. But she brought me mice and she brought me birds and she would let the others pet her. She slept with me only. I mean, it was just and it's always been that way. And I don't try to talk to them like how we would say we talk to stuff. I truly give them the widest berth they can ever use and just support them in whatever they're trying to do.
Yeah, cats are pretty good to communicate with that way, especially male. Excuse me. But the female as well. There's definitely difference between, just like in humans with the animals, there's difference in voice levels. The female in all animals will come through as a higher voice and the male comes through as a lower voice. But if you spend the time to observe whatever creature, we usually start with deer first, and spending the time to observe their movements, their life cycle from beginning to end, and generationally as well. So this, of course, takes a lot of time, a lot of dedication. Some of us have done it already, some haven't. And I guess that's the point of this, is those who have taken the time to love on and to appreciate the beauty that we have in creation with our critters, our little creatures, of all shapes and sizes, really. But in the beginning of this path, Native always begin with the teaching of how to speak with deer, because deer are those which speak the grandest. If there aren't any deer in your location, there's usually a horse, and this goes hand in hand. Horse and deer are of the same kind. So also, if you don't have a deer nearby and you don't have a horse nearby where you can observe on a daily basis, the alternate to that would be dog. Dog as the loyal heart. This is the binding thing between these three animals, is that they are working animals, load bearing and burden carrying, and they are loyal heart. The loyal heart understanding, or in Hebrew we would say kaleb, which is the combination of the heart, leb, and kaf, in the palm of the hand. So essentially, in the palm of our hand resides our heart, and we have evidence of this by our ring finger being connected, the vein of our ring finger, what's known as on the left hand, is the one connected directly to our heart. So in the palm of our hand does reside our heart, and who we give our palm of our hand to is in a form, especially in animals, they all respond this way, to giving your heart to them. So just like with a dog, if a person puts an aggressive movement forward with the palm of the hand facing the animal, the animal immediately understands that he is to stop, that to go no further, to this is my boundary line. On the other hand, if the person squats down and extends the hand as if with food in the palm of the hand, which is best to do this with no food in the palm of the hand, because then the animal relates, the dog, the horse, or the deer relate the palm of the hand with food, and that's not a good thing. We want them, if you're wanting to speak to them with heart, you want them to relate directly with your heart. So water works better than food in this instance, to offer water first in the palm of your hand, because this is what we are connected in spirit with, is by water. So long story short, to begin communication with the first animal would be in this sense of we offer our heart in the palm of our hand, and then they respond with a little sniff to investigate whether or not your heart is clean or not. If the animal will not even approach and is, and I'm speaking wild here, not necessarily domestic, because domestic do tend to take on the heart of their owner. So if they respond to you in aggressive moves, it's probably because they're responding the exact same way that their owner is responding to you in an aggressive way. They're just picking up and feeding off of the heart that they have bonded to. So I'm talking in a sense of speaking with an animal creature for the first time that is wild or would not be bonded to a human already. That makes sense? Okay.
Makes very good sense. Surprising, because I'm not well versed in what you're sharing, which I appreciate you sharing it. But as you say it, it's bizarre to me, my experience, that I didn't know any of this. Only because my niece, who has left this realm, she had a horse that adored me. I mean, it would rub on me, rub its face on my coat. It would nibble on me. It would hang. If I walked away, and she was a barrel racer, and so sometimes I'd hold her horse while she was getting ready, and she was one of my favorites. But so I would hold this horse, and it would. If a horse could purr, it would purr. I mean, I could feel that from the horse. Yeah. And the very first time I met it, I walked up to it, and I had my left hand down. It put its nose in my hand, and it just rubbed on me for a little bit. And then she rode it, and it came back, and it let me brush it, and she was teaching me about horses. And because I don't know, I was raised in the city, and that horse loved me for the whole time I knew it.
Oh, okay. Well, that is a good place to pause. We're coming up on the hour break. So I'm going to ask Wookie to do his little in-between that he needs to do. And we're just going to pause a minute here so he can switch recording devices and stuff and move to the next half of the show. I don't know how to play music on here yet. So maybe Jules can jump in with a song. Do you have a song, Jules, maybe?
I have a guitar riff.
Do you have a song, Algo? Okay, let's do let's do it. Welcome back to the second half of our show, and this is part 2 of Speculation Island. And in this part, we're going to shift a little bit and get off the topic of language and animals and this such, and we're going to go more into what's happening with the WHO. So, Algo, can you give us a quick synopsis of what your opinion is with current news regarding the WHO, World Health Organization, and its participation in the Holder Blackwell campaign of Joe? Come on, man.
Well, yes, I can. The World Health Organization is a quasi-political, unelected body of people who have a lot of money and power, who want to direct the Great Reset in the direction they choose. And they have put forth what they call policies, which are not policies at all. They have nothing to do with that word as you know it in English. But if we call it that, then that's what we call it. So this World Health Organization is firmly supporting the next alleged president of the United States corporation in a way that they generally don't support a nation. The vaccine trials, the money put forth, and money subjective, get into all that stuff another time, but in regular world terms, they have an agenda that they were given, from my opinion, by other organizations. And the more they try to carry it out in the public mind, that's the only place it really exists. It doesn't really exist in reality. It exists in the minds of people. And if people are going to adopt the thinking that they're being given, they're probably going to be led down a path that is not pro-humanity, and secondly, not going to be really good for each individual. Does that kind of outline it for you?
A little bit, but I would like to get into some more on the simulation of entanglement theory per se, regarding how we all end up on the same wavelength. That really began about back when Obama was in office, back in 2010 or so. And do you think that relates to what we're seeing with this push, so to call the push of the needle, that begins that began in the UK? We saw the protest happen. We saw how they treated Sven P, our guest on the Aussie show last week on the roundtable chat last Saturday, and we will be having another one this coming Saturday. So little plug right there, but we are, I believe, seeing very clearly that we're in the fourth stage of what has been displayed to my eyes as V for Vendetta Live, especially when you throw in the timing of the biggest game release ever, getting up to 1 million people online at the same time, playing the same game at the same time, is breaking records. So much that the game itself is glitching over it. So
Right.
This game in relation to nanotechnology is there. Into the simulation complex there's absolute evidence of stepping in there. And how do you think that fits into this simulation, and what do we do about that?
Well, yeah, that's there's a lot in there, and I'm going to try to frame this in a. I'm going to try to frame this in a way that if a person listens to this and heard the first hour and says, I don't have any of that spiritual stuff, I don't talk to animals, I don't this, that, or the other thing, it doesn't matter. That's not the point. You have a mind that is your interface into this realm. And that's a generic term, and thank you for not jumping on me on that one, Malia, because your soul is truly your interface. Your spirit guides your soul, but your mind is your tangible interface. And we have these portals into our mind through our eyes and our ears, and some people through their skin and through other senses, But in 2008, a chant of "Yes, they can" and a chant of many things were given to specifically the American public. The American
Change.
public absorbed that change you can believe in,
Mm-hmm.
changes on the horizon. All of
Mm-hmm.
these things were given to us in a way that, from an energetic level, and as you say, from a quantum level, if our minds absorbed them, they became part of our experience here. Some of us rejected it, some of us absorbed it, some of us absorbed it and then rejected it, some are still absorbing it. We're all at different places. As we progress through the changes we did experience in society from 2008, which, I mean, 12 years ago seems like a blink to most people, even if you're young right now, because the quickening is a real thing. Old people used to say, man, the time goes so fast. And we used to feel like when we were in our teens and 20s, that life was dragging on and everything took forever. But that mind interface level, from that point forward, everything has been moving at breakneck speed in a direction towards transhumanism that is against creators' design, not necessarily wishes, because I wouldn't presume to know that, but I can see creators' design is everything against that. So if you fast forward to game you're speaking of, capturing the minds of so many at one time, it's akin to sigil like the Pepsi slogan or the Disney logo, or you name it. It matches up in the way that our minds experience that on a one-to-one scale. So for me, the way out of it is truly to not let it stay in your mind, not let it be in your mind, take it out of your mind, don't participate. That road, it appears, is going to be very, very challenging, and it's going to take a warrior's heart to do that.
Right. Definitely. And I think that if I can bring this into the speculation as well, some very hot, very recent topics in KBS has been on the Kev Baker show, has been regarding not only the Rosalind place in Scotland, but also looking at the Edinburgh Castle and other locations like this that seem to be flashpoints of the beginning. I guess what I'm trying to get at, the 4 different levels that this has come to the West in. We saw the beginning in China in the East, truly in North Korea, and this kind of thing, which has always seemed to be very closely linked to the Blackwell Holder campaign that is so-called run by Biden, but not really. He's the puppet in the front. He's not much of a...
Oh, the poor guy. My heart goes out to him so much.
Yeah, it's not... mine doesn't, because he willingly signed off his soul and did quite a bit to gain the position and money and wealth and greed and power, etc., to get where the president he has today, a debilitated man. But that's my opinion. And
which is a valid opinion.
Op-ed.
No,
yes, very.
Totally valid. I would wonder if, from my viewpoint, and I don't like to quote the Bible. I don't want to quote Jesus because it feels blasphemous to me. But somewhere in that book says, "Forgive them, Father, for they know not what they do." And I see so much of that right now. And I see it at levels that I never imagined I would see.
Yeah. Well,
and that's why I feel bad for him. He's clearly lost his marbles, and he doesn't even remember signing the contract.
Right. And I think that applies definitely because of, but in a very, let's decipher that. Let's split a line between the middle there, because that's what essentially what ciphering means is look at which side is which, and what do we apply that to and what do we not apply that to, because it's not healthy to forgive the
Good.
demonic entities. That is truly not in the scriptures. It's a twisting of the truth to think that we are to forgive the enemy. That puts you in a weakened state instead, and in a state of fear against them. So definitely not. I would suggest not forgive them for that they know not what they do concerning government bodies and these kinds of things, because they know very well what they do. So that's the differentiation here: is, do they know what they are doing? And if they do know clearly what they are doing and have signed anyways to do the evil thing, then they are among the wicked that burn. Essentially, they have gone off over to the trading floors. Yeah.
So
but on the other hand,
go ahead.
Yeah, on the other hand, in total fairness, absolutely, is we have all of these people who raised their hand and voted for Obama in the beginning of 2008, falling for the deception and great satanic operations that were happening right there, rituals and such things, as far as reverse speech and all of that. We can go back and listen into Microcosm with Jimmy Jeans and have a look at what Epic and them have been revealing, and Rio, regarding the reverse speech at that time. Now, that is very, very strong mind control technology that is being used and was used effectively. Hearts and souls and patriotism was won in that campaign to such a degree that it is very possible this so-called regime actually did win, and it is all a dog and pony show to put such energy and emotion into saying, debating which one won, I guess is what I'm trying to say. Right. In the end, we have people who did not know what was being done to them. It was done unwillingly. It was done in a cheating way. They were not told beforehand, hey, we're going to be, mind controlling you here. We're going to be doing this kind of thing, putting to use what we found through the theft and robbing, what I believe the theft and robbing of the Scottish UFO and the crashing of the Roswell, in order to discover its secrets, per se, because that relates to an actual ship that was built in history that is a boat which floats on water. Not necessarily a rocket ship, but it is, in a sense, a spaceship because it was able to move through airwaves. Again, that looks into the theories of what Tesla developed, or, again, what I believe Tesla stole from the one who actually developed what we see repetitively happening throughout history, like Einstein and these others who search out the apprentice that is of genius and take the essence of them. They vampirically steal the essence of them and what they know and put it to a false use rather than what its good use should be. So I think that what you bring up with forgive them for they know not what they do absolutely applies to the general good people in the U.S. who were duped by these people and are still, many of them are still duped, but not so much as they were back in 2008. And now the so-called spiritual battle, I think, lays in, well, you tell me first, Algo, what do you think is the real basis of this spiritual battle? Because the revelation of it being spiritual from the beginning is quite clear now.
Okay, so from my viewpoint, the only spiritual battle that exists is within inside each one of us on our own. And if we can sort or suss that out, I want to make sure that for myself, I know that when I do what it is I have to do, I'm in the right spiritual place before I do it, if that makes sense to somebody. And I did want to go back just a tad, because if you have, well, you probably do have some impression of my past life journey.
Yes.
Probably better than I do. But there is a lot of bloodshed in that.
Yeah, and most of you guys is, I would say,
Like a lot,
I
not just a
yeah.
small amount, a ton. And so my first instinct is
It's
not
true.
that. It is totally true. I can feel it. I had a dream last night, and I was slaughtering people. And no, I because the reason you
Yes,
have
yes, you
to
were.
reason you have to slaughter them is so the rest of us can survive. And
Yeah.
this realm that we're in right now, I personally think we're at that choosing point where if enough people can handle the internal spiritual battle and come out on the, for lack of a better word, right side of it, we don't have to inflict that anymore. And it will still come out correct or right or on God's side, or the words are the English language. It feels like a freaking trap to me.
It
It
is.
drives me bananas the way it traps me.
Yeah, especially in the writing of it. Me too. I think I've overcome that in some ways by making fun of it. But then again, if you're not extremely careful with that, you can also, it traps in everything that it does. It's a language of upside down smoke and mirrors, built on money. Specifically business, in a very cold language at that. Very hard to express emotion and feelings in an everyday kind of way.
Right.
So yeah, I guess that's why I encourage so much people learn Spanish, learn Latin or Italian or anything, but primarily Spanish first, because Spanish is the easiest link that I can see language back to for Americans, for the West, to make connection back to their original heritage language. Of course, there is this final starting point of that heritage language, but for each one of us, depending on your generational line, certain parts of heritage language tend to be more easily understood by the soul because of so many life patterns speaking that language, if that makes sense.
Well, and the beast system made English the world language, clearly, and on purpose. That was not an accident. And I would say with the reverse speech, I was asleep when Jimmy was going to have a show last night, and I read that it was going to be about reverse speech. Reverse speech is a fascinating thing. If you haven't ever listened to it or checked it out, I encourage you to, because there is mind magic in that. There's mind virus in that. That is unmistakable if somebody who understands it presents it to you. It's really hard. It takes practice, just like learning a regular language, correct?
Right. And I would like to add a very strong warning for any who do pick this up and decide that they would like to learn or at least hear what it is that others are hearing. Like Epic said last night, and Rio and Jimmy, not everybody can hear this thing. It takes time. It takes learning and understanding other languages. It takes some cultural studies. There are more cultures than are many diversified American culture.
It scares me that it scares me that I can hear it every single time.
Yes, that is your ancient soul.
Like in full speed. They don't even have to slow it down. I
Yeah,
watched a
me
show by
too.
them a week ago, and they play it in forward and then they play it in reverse, and I catch everything that I hear, and
Yeah.
it does honestly kind of frighten me.
Yeah, it has to do with your unique spiritual path because of your seat and who you are. Definitely, it's less difficult for you to hear spiritual languages, and it doesn't come that way for everybody, though. So it can be really. My warning is that it can be very, very traumatic to listen to once you start to hear it, because not only do you hear the authenticity of it, but you must guard your soul from that which you're hearing, because it is dangerous to listen to in its pure form, which I suggest Jimmy and Epic and Rio are very good teachers in this, because they naturally guard all listening ears in prayer as they're going through the teaching and learning. That doesn't mean that you cannot be personally susceptible, though. I watched, and I won't name names, but I did watch one person last night become susceptible to it and end up manifesting quite a few different personalities, and demonic entities came
They
through
lost their
because of
stuff.
what, yeah, they lost their stuff. So again, I would say if you're not prepared to, or you have closed doors in your mind where you could be fractured soul or broken soul, traumas that you haven't looked at, be very careful, because these things are set to entrap you, entrap your mind. And that's what they did in 2008 with their political social campaigns, and the movement forward of the conjoining of YouTube and Twitter and all these different social networks. However, at the same time, they are always fighting amongst each other. It's varying levels of power and control. So, and different ones who want the power this time. They're only agreeing to work together on the same team because they have a mutual common goal, which would be that WHO, who is the one behind the curtain, per se, in this Wizard of Oz, George Orwell rewrite of the apocalypto now that we live in.
Right. They can gang up against us at this point in time, even though they hate each other and they want to tear each other apart later. They're fine with that.
Right, right. And so to lift it up a little bit, some of the things that are activating and energizing in spirit because of this conjunction and timing and these kinds of things are very much like the little fishes raising to hear what is the song of the voices who are singing truth. The spirit voices of individuals who are turning on the radio mic and the waves now, I can see from the spirit, are very given clear voices, audible, so that they can speak in a sense where the little ones are able to hear. Their eyes are being opened and their ears are being opened. So it's very important for those of us who have been used to sitting in the background, because that is how we stay safe. It is that time to begin to step forward, to share that wisdom that we have obtained through that sitting in the background, through dedicating our lives to giving money away instead of obtaining it, to helping the poor and the widows and these things which are naturally in front of us to care for, including animals and plants.
There is no more time.
Yeah, no, the time is
As
now.
they say, there is no more time, right?
Yeah, the time is now. We've entered into the moment of our standing. You know, we can very clearly look back over the past 2,000 years, really, but let's look at the past 400 years, or even 300 years, at how quickly as each century has gone past, how much more accelerated the so-called satanic forces have become in total global power. Regardless of translation of the scriptures or the so-called Biblios, we still can obtain some sort of understanding of these times because of the love of prophetic books that the magicians and wizards obtain to, and because of the not knowing and knowing rule. It's important that souls and people in general have a basic understanding of what the layout of events could be and are when the coming of Revelation or the coming of the final book of John that he wrote on the Isle of Patmos would be regarding. Now, of course, because of the levels of esotericism and Babylon coming in to twist the meaning of every word of scripture, it's very difficult for most people to understand what is happening right now. We have a large majority that are still waiting for the rapture, but have a wrong idea of what that rapture is. We have another.
I want to pat the.
Yeah,
can I tell you? I want to pat those pre-tribulation people on the head.
I know,
I want
right?
to say,
Are they cute?
honey, why do you think you get to escape this?
I know, and
What
that
makes you think that?
It's just such a poor translation because there is, in a sense, what I see happening in the spirit. We have come to a point where there's certain ones that he, and they're few and very few far between, the Creator sends the guardians to say, okay, you're done now. You do not have to suffer anymore. And they're raptured up, per se. They're taken away from this. But that's not, everybody's sitting in the Baptist pew over there and screaming and singing along, and suddenly there's a bunch of clothes on the floor and no people in the room. It's completely different. I mean, we're looking at a picture of, most of the ones he picks up to do this, I would say, are the littles, the youngs that just didn't deserve what's going on, starvation and blood and being refused. That's the kind that he has compassion for, the broken,
Right.
the ones who don't need him. You don't need him, he don't need you. It's very simple.
Well, yeah, I think as we try to navigate what's moving forward from where I see it, we have 11 days in North America until those planets do conjoin in a way that appears to be a single body. And if you are a globe Earth lover, you believe those things are big solid rocks. And if you are a flat Earth believer, you believe those things are spiritual bodies. And either way, if two of those big giant rocks get that close, the energetic resonance is going to cause something to happen. And if you are a flat earth believer and you believe those two spiritual things are going to come together, one of them means Saturn and the cube and Satan, and a way longer conversation than we have time for. But you also know that something's going to happen. So as a layman, I am a layman. I have Forrest Gumped my way through the spiritual world. I am not a shaman. I am not prophetic. I have had some weird things happen to me. I was taught to reverse the spin of the electron in an atom, and that does amazing things, which we could talk about another time as well. But
Yeah.
I'm a layman, and in the next 11 days, only thing I would say is love everybody as much as you can.
Yeah.
And be as kind and gracious as God gave you. And we will, depending on how the energies align right before that conjunction, it's going to determine a hell of a lot. And I would also recommend be very careful of anybody that wants you to sit and pray and meditate for the conjunction, because their intentions for your energy may not be your intentions for your energy. That is a
Yes.
huge thing. There are groups all over the internet saying we're going to sit at this time and we're going to point this direction and we're going to chant and we're going to meditate and we're going to do this so we can have a new humanity and we can do all this stuff. And unless you can know their intention, be very, very careful with that.
I would say avoid it at all costs, because unless you very clearly understand and know that this gathering is led by really the only ones who could lead a gathering like that right now, who would be for Creator, and I'm going to be really bold here, would be either Luna or myself, because of the positions that we just are.
So who is leading all the other nonsense is the question.
Oh, well,
say it, the lower demons.
Well, yeah, the lower demons, and pretty much everyone that would like the UFO to come in and wrest back control of so-called Chip. But you know, they're essentially trying to enter back in to our realm. These entities that were cast out back on September the 11th of this year. They went on their Starship Enterprise Galactica and joined their Federation. And they all signed an agreement that they would do this thing. They left, they opened the portal over Stonechun, and they left. After leaving and the wormhole closed, and they entered into another in-between place, they realized that they couldn't come back. So that's essentially what this so-called gathering on this side, any gatherings would be pertaining to, is to help in the channeling of reopening that portal so these fallen ones could come back in. Those belonging to the Asgardia nation, that's what they call it, Asgardia. So this is very important and pertinent for us, and I really appreciate you bringing it up, Algo, that we do not join in any so-called New Age or Scientology or even David Icke type levels of spirituality leading, meditating, guiding in this conjunction. It's a very important time to look within, to be alone, to be in prayer by yourself or with your significant other, close family members.
And your children, and just leave it alone. Leave
it alone. Leave it alone, because as far as the warriors go, what Algo was referring to earlier about, there's a lot of spiritual bloodshed going on, big time. And while we do want people to join in that, we also don't want untrained soldiers, just like in real life, because untrained soldiers cause chaos. Just because they don't know what they're doing, and they usually get killed anyway. So it's important that people wait for the right time to jump into the fray. If you're ready, jump in, whatever. But when it comes down to this, and especially when it comes to the conjunction, it's a time for you and Creator to be one-on-one. It is not a time to be online. It's not a time to be opening portals, to be joining in crystals and these kinds of things, because that which happens in the spirit during this time will be very, very impacting to the mortal flesh. If you happen to be joining with them, the Galactica Federation, your soul, when that wormhole closes and your body is still here, your soul's gone. Plain and simple. That's what the danger of this is. They're cutting the silver cords.
The untrained soldier not only gets themselves killed, but they get others killed.
Mm-hmm.
and they don't intend that, but that's the consequence. And that silver cord that reaches your heart to heaven, and you can never allow that to be cut by your own volition. If they cut it, hey, they cut it, and you've got your path, and you'll have to deal with God later. But don't let it be cut by your own volition.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. The joining in this is the volition. Is the I know what's going on by joining, because they have given 10 years of training in that. They've made it very clear, New Age and Scientology, what they do, and they don't hide that from their parishioners. So be very careful what you join, because they're still looking for those that can be duped and are looking to spiritually ascend, would be the key word. Their spiritual ascension into the new conjunction with the union of the One World Church. Is very, very dangerous, if you can feel or hear my jumping in my voice, because
you'll lose your soul. You'll lose your soul. It's just that simple.
Yeah, you're done for. And that's where the scriptures definitely say, it is better that you be beheaded than make this choice to go with them.
And is the mRNA vax the number of the beast? Probably not. If they inject a bunch of people and kill a bunch of people, and then they say, you know what, we have a new vaccine that goes on your hand or forehead. If you're going to believe the Bible, you have to believe it literally. It means the hand or the forehead. It doesn't mean your arm or your butt. It means the hand or the forehead. But the prelude to that could be what we're experiencing right now. And everybody, the rest of the people that stayed, I don't know, we lost some of our audience, but the people that stayed, Malia and I are doing this because we actually care about you guys.
Yeah.
And we want to put this out into the digital ether because we actually care about humanity.
Yeah. Yeah, a creator cares about numbers. The numbers in our recording area are all essential to what we're doing here. Every single one of you that are in this room while we record are brought here to help in this. Your soul is guided to this place in this location for very important and very special reasons on top of that. But as this goes out into the so-called public arena, Creator does with it as he will, whatever he will do with it. So very likely, because of timing and because of the things said here, he may or may not grow it. It may or may not spread, but it will spread to those who need to hear it, whether those numbers be small or large.
Right. Yeah. And you notice who just came back, which is so fun and so, oh my God, make my heart so warm. But
we're here for each other.
Yes. And if anyone hears this who does have fear about this, don't have fear about this.
No, I would add. Go ahead.
Go ahead.
Well, I would just add that if you're not already in so-called fray, if you haven't already been brought and you see in the spirit you have a sword in your hand and you're asked to join this, don't look and seek for that right now. After this time is over, looking into the new year, into springtime for the West Coast, or the Western continent, we're coming into a place then where that training for warriors will begin again, I believe. He's made it pretty clear on that part. So not to get too futuristic on that, but at the same time, if you're not already in this fight and knowing that you are there and fully participating, I would stick to sticking with your family through this time and just holding on to each other in those feelings of love and happiness and such growing. Go ahead, Alva.
Well, yeah, for one, yeah, because we're going to need you later and you'll find us and we'll find you. But for the people that have fear about any of this, that's got to stop. And it has to stop now.
Mhm.
There is
Yeah.
nothing in this realm to be afraid of. None of us make it out of here in our current physical body. We all transition. We all have losses and victories and love and anger, and there's nothing to fear in this realm.
Amen. That's so true. It's so true. And fear is an illusion. It is a filthy, putrid smoke, gray smoke in the spirit. So when you can smell it coming before it gets to you, like a really bad cow fart, and you just ignore it. Just ignore it. As soon as you replace love with fear, that smell is repelled completely. It won't come near you. So, but as soon as you accept that smell into your nostrils and recognize the fear, then is when you become susceptible to it.
Right.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, I think we're ready to call it a wrap. Is there anything that you'd like to say, Al, before we leave?
oh no, my friend, I would like to say that I appreciate, pardon me, I appreciate the fact that you are literally putting yourself at risk to rejoin the digital conversation. Malia and I have had conversation, one online that you can find on my algorithm channel, but you're literally putting yourself at risk to be here. And that's a big, huge thing that you don't want to talk about, of course. I know you understand that our time to make the decision inside of each one of us is now. It's right now. It's not tomorrow. It's not next week. It's not 2 minutes before the conjunction. Decide now inside of your heart who you want to serve. And then everything else will just unfold. I guess that's all I could end with.
Yeah, I totally agree. And thank you for that, Algo. And thank you for being here and taking my hot seat. Um, it's been fun, and I've really enjoyed not only the presence of those who have been here, but your presence. Um, and I'm looking forward to my next show, which will be not this Saturday, but next Saturday regarding Speculation Island. And my guest will be, hopefully, Sid Fitch, who goes by the name of Vicious from Norway. And he said he'd take my hot seat and accept some interview questions. So we'll see what we talk about. Who knows? I
That's
hope
going to
to
be
see
a
you
good one.
then.
I will definitely be there.
Yeah, it'll be same time, same place here at the Wookiee House at 3:30 p.m. Mountain Standard Time. And not sure what that is UK time. Still working on that. But I also will be co-hosting, me and Algo will be co-hosting with Luna this coming Saturday for the Roundtable show at the Wookiee House also. So please join us with that. Luna hosts that show, and she does a wonderful job and brings us on a down under journey into the land of Australia and what her unique insight on lots of things going on in our realm now. So thank you all for being here, and hope to